This is kind of on the spur of the moment here. I haven't really looked into the whole situation, but I think I know enough to make a presentation on this guy, on Michael Saylor. And of course, those of you who've known me for a while, I focus on exposing the guys that affect the most people in the media. And of course, Michael Saylor, he's been pumped in the media a whole lot. But I wanted to show you guys some things about Michael Saylor. So, for those of you who don't know who he is, which probably many of you probably know more about him than me, Michael Saylor is the founder and CEO of a company called MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy, in I think 2020, believe it was maybe June, July 2020, began to buy Bitcoin. And he became a Bitcoin pumper. Okay, a Bitcoin pumper. Now, Michael Saylor, a little bit of his background. He started MicroStrategy during the dot-com bubble. And, I mean, I'll get to MicroStrategy here in a minute. But, he seems like an intelligent guy. He's MIT grad. Great. But, just because you've got a good education doesn't mean that you're not a con artist or a crook or that you know everything and you know what's going on. A lot of times these guys are narcissistic. They pursue their own interests. And when they're money worshipers as well, they get into trouble. Well, not always. A lot of them are protected. And some of them get lucky. So where is Michael Saylor? Where does he fit in here? Well, let's take a look first of all at MicroStrategy. Now you see the chart of the stock. Let's take so now you all probably know more about me. I didn't look up the specifics, but MicroStrategy bought about 3.5 to 4 billion. I guess I don't know. Depends. They bought it at different cost basis, right? And I don't know where it is now. The value, it's probably about 2 billion now, maybe, or less than 2 billion. You can search for it now and tell me what the value of MicroStrategy's Bitcoin is based upon the price. But they bought, I think, maybe the cost basis was close to 4 billion over several allotments, purchases, and they actually borrowed some money to buy Bitcoin. That was the controversial thing. Now, let me get back to the company, MicroStrategy, and we'll get back to the whole Bitcoin holding and what I believe to be easily controversial, if not illegal. So let's take a look at the chart. Obviously, Bitcoin has taken a dump. MicroStrategy has taken a dump. Bitcoin is just below 23,000. It's made a little rally. And so the market cap of this stock is just over 3 billion. Let's call it 3.2 billion. I'm assuming this is correct. The market, sometimes the calculations on Yahoo Finance aren't correct. So you actually need to take a look at the shares outstanding to make sure and multiply that times the price. Okay, 9. Yeah, that looks right. So it's about 3 billion, a little over 3 billion. Okay. Now I remember this company. I've heard it a few times over several years, and it just was a nothing company, a nothing. Let's take a look at a longer term chart. Let's take a look at a 5-year chart. So take a look, folks. What do you have here? You've got a stock that was doing nothing. Look at that. Flat line. Like a dead person. Heartbeat, right? if this is your heartbeat, then you're going 6 feet under pretty soon. For years. And then what happened? It started rising rapidly. Why? Because he essentially is trying to turn his company into a Bitcoin ETF. Now, how the securities regulators, or let's say why they allowed this, is shocking. This is fraud, in my opinion. This is securities fraud. Think about this for a second. How is it possible that any company, including Tesla, Square, all these companies that have bought cryptocurrency, to me, this is fraud. This is securities fraud. The SEC is allowing them to use their cash to buy basically what's a pyramid scheme. It's backed by nothing. Not only that, what's even worse, the cryptocurrencies are confirmed conduits of illegal money, of illegal proceeds, of drug trade, sex trade, human trafficking. There's no doubt about that. Think about that for a second, folks. Let's look at the big picture here. It's bad enough that it hasn't been shut down because of that. You understand now, you're starting to understand when I've talked about Wall Street controls the cryptocurrency market. You can't just look at the direct control. You have to look at everything. You got to look at the venture capital firms. Venture capital is Wall Street. You've got to look at who's taking these companies public. Wall Street. Who took Coinbase public? Right? FTX just got $2 billion, I think, financing. Where are they getting the financing from? Wall Street. May not be Morgan Stanley directly. You think Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs or Merrill Lynch don't have other funds they invest in that go into this stuff? Folks, I know how the street works. I know the capital markets, okay? I'm telling you. And I talked about Gary Gensler from the CFTC. And now he's running the SEC. He's the guy that approved the first Bitcoin futures contracts on the CFTC, on the commodities exchange. That's why he's been promoted to the SEC. He's their guy. Okay? Think about the big picture. Max Kaiser, I support. I'm the first guy to expose Max Kaiser, okay, in 2013 and 14. Actually, no, I exposed him, even before that. That's how I knew Bitcoin was a scam, when he started promoting it. Max Kaiser is a career con man. So let's take a longer look at this company. What do you see when you take a look at this stock chart? Dog shit. It's a dog shit company. So let's go back here. Wow. What do you see? Look at this. It went to the moon. During when? During the same time that Mark Cuban sold his useless company, when anybody who had a company with a .com could have made themselves a fortune. The .com bubble. This stock was $3,100. Wow. Of course, this S, well, this S has got to be reverse split, yeah. This S might be a forward split. Yeah. Reverse split, you see? Obvious. Well, during this period here, on the run-up, Michael Saylor was found guilty of securities fraud, of course. You know, it's predictable, right? Now, you hear about Michael Saylor. I've often heard that the billionaire. Folks, another trick, red flag. Whenever the media mentions somebody as the billionaire, or he's a billionaire, the billionaire investor, what that means is that they can't say anything noteworthy of the guy other than he's a billionaire, which basically means whatever they say, run and hide or do the opposite. You see? But most people say, oh, billionaire, that means he's got a lot of money. That means he's a good investor. He knows what's going on. Folks, the amount of money you have has nothing to do with how much you know or how good you are as an investor, okay? Almost all the time, especially when you're talking about very, very, very wealthy people. They make their money through illegal activity, much of which is never caught and or prosecuted. They make their money through, for instance, insider trading, through dirty dealing, through scamming. I mentioned that the other day when somebody said, "Whoa, Ray Dalio's worth $22 billion. He must know what's going on." And I said, well, look at the track record. Tell me that he made that money because he's such a great investor. You see, that's what you got to answer. You have to answer that question. And he didn't understand how the whole hedge fund industry works. Ray Dalio's got his connections. He's got pension money. He's collecting fees and fees and fees off of mediocre, if not shitty, performance. Why? Because think about most of that money he's managing is not from individuals who say, "Hey, you know what? You suck. We're pulling our money." It's coming from guys that control pension plans. So the people that actually put the money in don't know what the hell's going on and can't really do anything about it. And that addresses the whole cabal of Wall Street and why all these guys are hedge fund managers and who's running everything and why they're shuttling money back and forth to these guys. That's a whole nother topic of discussion. I've addressed that many times in the past on my site. So that's kind of the past. MicroStrategy in a nutshell is look, it's kind of a joke of a company. Now, when I say that, of course, everything is relative. What I mean by that is it's not a company that should be publicly traded. I'm sure, in fact, I've already signed up for a demo. I'm going to demo their product. I'm sure they've got a nice product. Okay, great. I'm sure he's got a nice business. I'm sure he provides value for a lot of customers. That's not the point. The point is that, okay, so is your company, should it be publicly traded? What's it done in the past 20 years? Like maybe it was a pretty nice company during the dot-com bubble. But like, have you kind of kept up? Where are you today? And it's quite obvious the company is just spinning its wheels. You understand what I'm saying? It's funny, I saw he wrote a book on the future of mobile technology in 2012. I was coming out in 2001 talking about where things would be with mobile. And I said, in 2021, in 20 years, everything's going to be mobile. That's when we'll have mobile streaming. That was a guess, and I was right. Maybe I was 2 years late. Okay? I understood where mobile is going, and I'm not even an industry guy. I was on Wall Street. So I'm just basically saying, if this guy is a pioneer and a leader and a thought guy in that industry, he works in the industry, why didn't he come out with a book on that in 1995? You see? Everything's relative, folks. Everything's relative. So here's my whole premise. Okay? The company is a nothing company, and he's trying to make it a something company. He's trying to transform his company, which is doing nothing. Let's take a look into something using Bitcoin, the Bitcoin pump. Let's take a look at the company. Some financials. Wow, I can't recall seeing this. Maybe in the dot-com bubble. The trailing P/E ratio is now 4,120. I guess it could be worse, right? He could have no P/E ratio because they didn't earn anything. So look at this profit margin. I can't remember the last time I saw a profit margin of negative 109%. Right? So you see the debt here. $2.5 billion, cash $92 million. Well, take a look at the current ratio. Not hugely problematic, but just from this is not a good sign. This is the liquidity ratio, right? The ability to pay short-term obligations. Below 1 is not good. It's not terrible. I mean, this could change, but it's not great. And you can tell that just by looking at the cash and the debt. You suspect there might be a liquidity issue, solvency issue, actually. Not liquidity, solvency. Actually, in their case, it's also liquidity because they have tied up assets, right? So if you don't understand the difference between liquidity and solvency, you should this should give you a chance to look it up. In this case, I think it's both solvency and liquidity issue because they have assets that are tied up into Bitcoin, some of which are they're not liquid because they've lost a lot of money. So it seems to me that Michael Saylor, he jumped aboard. And think about it. He wasn't, he claims like he's an evangelist. It's the future. Like I believe in it. But Michael, you're in the digital space, right? You're connected with all these guys. I'm sure you rub elbows with a lot of these people that are, venture capital. You're in the whole network. So, Michael, why did you just get into crypto, to Bitcoin in 2020? Like, why did you wait so late, right? That's something interesting there. Now, this guy apparently, he's been running this company for 30 years. And so you hear, the billionaire. Well, he's not a billionaire anymore. And he was barely a billionaire. He became a billionaire because of the Bitcoin. Okay? Of the Bitcoin. So, this is an example of a guy who, I don't question his intelligence. I'm sure he's a sharp guy. But it doesn't mean that you listen to this guy and follow him down the road. You see? It's a great example of you got to be careful. This guy's obviously a charlatan. I believe what he's doing is illegal. Now, it may not be officially illegal. I could argue that it is because the fact is that the securities laws are they're so vast and complex that it's possible that the SEC is not even sure how to interpret things. And I know this for a fact because I've been told this by SEC attorneys that they don't even know all the laws. It's just too much. I don't understand how it's not illegal, but once again, you're dealing with a different issue there, and it's about who's controlling the securities regulatory bodies and who controls Wall Street and what's going on with the scamming. That's kind of what we're talking about, really. The same reason why most of the people who commit insider trading never get caught or convicted. It's a club, and you're not invited unless you're one of the big guys and you're from the right family, the right tribe. That's the way it works. If you're from the right tribe and you're not a big guy, well, guess what? You get shit on just like everybody else. Okay? You get shit on. They don't care. So it's two things, you see. You can also be not in the tribe, but you can be close enough and you can be involved. You can participate. That's kind of the way it works, folks. It's a club. So take a look at this. This is interesting. Short percentage of the float, 44% short. Very interesting. So if you like to trade stocks, you're going to see something here, probably. And I can just, this is not a recommendation, but I'm just pointing this out that this short, you could see this move, you could see MicroStrategy pop if Bitcoin continues to rally very quickly. Okay? Likewise, Bitcoin can reverse and break down from this 20,000 low. And, you can see, but short squeeze is starting to look interesting here. Okay? If you all can see that. I'm just pointing that out. Just as an observation type of thing, by the way. Yeah. So, really, so if you're a trader, you're more focused on a squeeze because why? Because you've already got a huge amount of shares that are short, right? And your Bitcoin, at least short term, has bottom. Short term doesn't mean anything. I mean, this thing can also break down lower. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it did down the road for sure. But in the meantime, it could rally. You got that short squeeze. A lot of shares short can pump this thing up very easily. In fact, it could just be news. There could be somebody could release some BS story about anything related to cryptocurrency, something positive, right? And that alone could cause this thing to squeeze because the number of shares short is so high, right? But anyway, that's not the focus of this. My point is that MicroStrategy is basically an insignificant company for the most part on the stock market. And I believe Michael Saylor is pumping Bitcoin as a way to, it's the same thing, he wants to become a meme stock. And the fact is that the guy's not so smart. If he were like, I think he's missing some like certain, there's gaps in his brain, I think, that like common sense or something, because it's obvious he wants to become a meme stock. He wants to be the guy, crypto, I'm going to buy MicroStrategy, right? I believe in crypto. Yeah, we're going to support him. Hey, Michael, if you want to do that, you need to announce a stock split. So the little boys, the little kids that pump the cryptos, so they can afford to buy a lot of shares. They don't, $281 is, they can afford maybe a couple of shares. They don't want to do that. Do a stock split, dummy, and then you can become a meme stock maybe. It's not rocket science, okay? I think it should be obvious that's what he's trying to do, and he hasn't figured it out to go ahead and do a stock split, to get the kids in, to pump it up. But now it's too late. Well, maybe it's too late. I mean, he should have done that a while back, right? Because MicroStrategy has been a high-priced stock. Let's take a look at the low. Yeah, the lowest it's been is 134. Highest has been is 891, right? So let's take a look now at the insiders or people holding a lot of the shares. Now, I see this all the time, by the way. Let me just go ahead and educate you guys. Some of you may know this, but like you'll see like people write on like stock boards and stuff. Oh, look, BlackRock owns a lot of the shares. Hey, dildo, that's because they run the ETFs. They have to buy them. Whenever you see State Street and that's counted as institutional ownership, but it's not really institutional ownership. When I think of institutional ownership, I'm talking about institutions investing. BlackRock has to buy it, okay? Morgan Stanley, it's hard to know. They probably, to some degree, have to buy it because it's going to be in some of their funds that are based on, certain indexes like the MSCI or something like that. State Street, they only own it because it's in their ETFs, and their ETFs are benchmarked against the MSCI. Okay, you understand? I can guarantee you, like almost nobody on YouTube even knows what I just told you. It is so basic. That's what I'm saying. Like they don't know anything. This is like fucking low-level shit. So let's take a look here. Now, Capital International Investors. These guys are the number one holders by far. Almost 400 million reported first quarter, May 30th, 2020. That means they bought it probably sometime when it was a lot higher, earlier in the year. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. So, I mean, you can look up the filings and see when they bought it for sure, but we know they bought it somewhere when Bitcoin was around. Let's call it 40 grand. let's call it 40,000. Okay, actually, it's going to be more than 40 most likely. Let's call it 45. 45. I'm sorry. Did I read that correctly? Let me see. Yeah. So let's call it about 45. They bought it towards the peak. Okay. Now, I looked this company up. It turns out this is one of their. They have a group of companies. Capital World Investors is under the same umbrella. So we're talking about currently the value is about what, 550, roughly 560 million. And that's after a 50% drop of where our estimate is where they bought it in general, just a rough gauge. So in other words, they had at one point close to $1 billion in MicroStrategy. Currently it's 550, 560, something like that, right? Think about that. Let's go back to the financials here. So their cost basis in this company is roughly $1 billion. This one investment manager. Why do you think they bought it? They bought it because they wanted to basically invest in a Bitcoin ETF. Think about that one. I hope that people that are with this investment company are suing the hell out of them. I hope so. This is a big problem. It's a huge problem. Let's take a look now at this company a little more. I found this article. I'm sure you can find a lot here. A $2 trillion asset manager has bought a 12% stake in Bitcoin evangelists Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy. Of course, we're talking about this company, Capital International Investors. Look at that. So I thought to myself, I said, $2 trillion is a lot of money. I've never heard of this company before. That's kind of strange. Where are they from? Europe? That's weird to me. I mean, I don't pay attention, but I'm counting. If it's $2 trillion, I'm going to know about it. I never heard about it before. He's all smiles. Well, this picture had to have been taken several months ago. I don't think he's all smiles now, but Capital International Group, there you have it. Wow, that's pretty irresponsible. Didn't they say 2 trillion? Okay. 2.3 trillion. A 12.2% stake in MicroStrategy. Think about this. I mean, why isn't the SEC going after this investment company? Why aren't they going after MicroStrategy? You have an investment firm that has invested a huge amount of money. And by the way, they disclosed a 12% stake. That's what it's worth now. Their cost basis has to be much higher. It's got to be at least twice this. You think they bought them because of their superior financials? Right? Their superior profit margin of minus 109 or rounded off 110%? Think about this. This is fucking lawsuit. This video should be posted everywhere. Okay? So the investors of this Capital International can sue the hell out of this company. I mean, look at this. Look at this. This is abysmal. This is irresponsible. So think about it for a second. Capital International cannot claim that they invested in this company because of the fundamentals. Fundamentals are disgustingly scary. I mean, they're even flirting. They're even flirting with, the inability to pay their short-term debt. Right? This is scary. In addition to that, what I found out was that they actually borrowed hundreds of millions of dollars. I can't remember. You all can look it up. I want to say $700 million to finance a convertible debt to buy Bitcoin. How in the hell is this legal? That's what I want to know. Hey, SEC, stop protecting the criminals. You're hurting investors. You're not protecting them. How is it possible to have registered securities that are selling debt and using that money to buy tulip bubble, basically, which is Bitcoin? How is this even possible? This is evading. This is a way to go across the regulators and basically make a Bitcoin ETF. But I don't even understand how they were able to register those securities and use it to buy Bitcoin. Michael Saylor needs to be in prison. By the way, feel free to send this to Michael Saylor and any of these geniuses and the venture capitalists, all of them. I will take them all on. Line them up one by one. Guaranteed they won't show up. Neutral platform. I'll steamroll them all. They won't even think about going up against me when they find out about me and my track record and who I am and what the hell I know. Guaranteed. Do it, please. Send all these guys. Send Tim Draper, the cryptocurrency VC con man. All these guys. Send them all. Anybody you want. Elon Musk, Jack Dorsey, any of these guys. Elon Musk committed fraud by buying cryptocurrencies with shareholder money. Jack Dorsey, same to you. Just because you have been investigated or accused of the crime doesn't mean that it's legal, by the way. This is why I expose all these things, folks, because people don't understand. People that are deceiving people and they're jumping on the bandwagon of things, they're doing these things dishonestly. Why? Because they're going to end up scamming you. They're going to turn the tables. I've seen this for years. It's the same MO. They pretend. The pretenders are the dangerous people. Just like these fake guru detectives. They're pretending because they want to use that to gain your trust, to turn the tables and scam you. I'm telling you. I'm the guy that exposed the whole gold pumping scene. These guys are all afraid of me because I expose all their lies and bullshit. They're all fucking cons and frauds. Folks, look, YouTube, this is why YouTube is a platform for frauds and cons because there's no regulation. It takes brains, okay? That's all it takes to spot all these guys. Anyway, look, folks, there's a market for naive, gullible people to sell greed because most people are naive and gullible and greedy, okay? That's why the scammers go after that market. Anyway, so let's get back to Mr. Saylor and Capital International Group. So I looked at this company. I took a look. I was interested. I was like, okay, they're in the U.S.? They're in California? I looked at the website. The website, 2.3 trillion, and this is the website. No, sorry, this doesn't cut it. This is relatively small office. So I looked at this company, and it seems to me this is not a company that's managing $2 trillion. It can't be. So then what did I do? I looked at the team. Okay. Does this office look like it's managing $2 trillion? I mean, first of all, are they going to show you like an office that's rented? Or are you going to see a big headquarters, a big building that's got their sign on the building? You understand what I'm saying, right? And then take a look. So let's take a look at the. What my suspicion is this. They got basically like 17, 18 people here. That. What my suspicion is, I could be wrong because this is certainly not definitive, but based upon what I know about things, this is not. I think the assets are indirect, or it's not. In other words, it's not asset management. It could be a lot of banking assets, indirect. They work with RIAs, so they're custodian for accounts. I don't think they have the 2.3 trillion under their roof. There's no way they do. Based on my guess, based upon what I see, I could be wrong, but none of that matters. That's aside. That's trivial. That's aside from the point I'm trying to make. I mean, $2 trillion is like 2.3 trillion. You're talking about like Charles Schwab. I mean, come on. Charles Schwab has got like their own massive campus headquarters. They moved from San Francisco to Westlake or Southlake? I think it's Westlake, Texas. like their own campus. And these guys manage 2.3 trillion. They're going to show you like some little, I mean, there's nothing wrong, but this is like, like a small shop. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense to me. Right? So let me take a look here. And they've been in business for 30 years too. So, I mean, that's a little bit. Yeah. I could be wrong. That doesn't matter. Let's not distract from the main point. The main point is that this company has invested close to $1 billion in MicroStrategy, and you saw the fundamentals. The fundamentals are abysmal. I have to believe they're doing it as a way to get across, to get past securities laws, to take investor money, and because they can't invest it in Bitcoin, right? But they invested in a stock that owns Bitcoin, they can get Bitcoin exposure. This is illegal. Someone's breaking the law. I think it's Michael Saylor. This company, for doing that, maybe they're not breaking the law, but they're responsible and they can be sued. Now, I'm not a securities attorney, but I know a lot about securities laws, and I believe they can be sued. It's pretty obvious to me. So, in fact, some of you out there, you contact a securities lawyer and, well, I won't get paid. You probably won't get paid either. But anyway, I mean, this is the type of stuff you would expect from a top pro, right? This is top stuff. And actually, this doesn't require a top pro. It doesn't. Right? It's just pretty kind of common sense, I think, to some degree, with a little knowledge of the industry. You're not going to get this anywhere else, probably, even though it's not that big of a deal. Just kind of tells you what's out there, right? The garbage that's out there. The garbage that's out there, it's not. They don't want to talk about it. They want to talk about the next stocks to buy during the recession. You see? All these fucking clowns and frauds. They don't care about, exposing the fraud and going all, they're all fucking scammers and idiots. YouTube. That's it. One final thing I want to show you here. So you notice that they talk about the billionaire. The billionaire. Well, he's not a billionaire now. So I want to show you something here. This is an important thing here. Take a look. I don't know if any of you all knew this, but this is Elon Musk's Twitter. December 20th, 2020. Michael Saylor responds to this post about Bitcoin. Elon Musk posts something in December 2020 about Bitcoin. And see what Michael Saylor writes? If you want to do your shareholders a $100 billion favor, convert the Tesla balance sheet. Wow. Balance sheet? Hey, I guess maybe he can call it a balance sheet because this CEO to CEO, but you all know what a balance sheet means. It doesn't mean the cash. He's referring to it as the cash. Balance sheet is obviously assets and liabilities, right? And shareholder equity. But anyway, convert the balance. He's referring to the cash. Convert the Tesla balance sheet from U.S. dollars to Bitcoin. Other firms on the S&P 500 would follow your lead, and in time it would grow to become a $1 trillion favor. Look at that very carefully. This is an important thing. Remember, this is December 20th, 2020. Now, do you all know what Michael Saylor did not long after that? On February 3rd and 4th, Michael Saylor he organized for February 3rd and 4th, he held a Bitcoin for Corporations conference. And this meeting was for executives of large corporations. And the purpose was to convince corporate America and corporate executives from around the world to basically buy Bitcoin using their cash, to pump Bitcoin, to tell them the same bullshit. Look it up. You can search it right now. I mean, let's do it right now. We'll do it right now. So I'll show everybody. Some people are lazy and will never look unless you show them. Michael Saylor, Bitcoin at $1 million. I'm more bullish than ever. So I'm sure it's somewhere. I can't find it immediately. It's listed. I don't know what it's listed under. Oh, I didn't spell his name right. Oh, you know what? Yeah, conferences. I shouldn't use conference because there's too many crypto. Bitcoin, February 3rd, 21. Bitcoin executives. There we go. You see that? Michael Saylor reveals huge corporate interest in Bitcoin as crypto conference for CEOs begins. So you can just read that. Okay? You can read all the nonsense. See what they have here. Bitcoin 2022 conference. So, folks, I want you to remember all these pieces of garbage con artists who are pumping Bitcoin. Peter Thiel, fucking crook. Remember, this is the guy who awarded Alex Karp, Palantir CEO, not qualified to run that company or any other company, gave this guy well over $1 billion in Palantir stock, which he cashed in on within the first 15 months of the IPO. Same guy who himself cashed in within a few months of the IPO to the tune of $500 or $600 million. Peter Thiel is a con man and a major scammer. He's pitching Bitcoin. He's pitching something that's based on nothing. It's air. It's backed by nothing. Cathie Wood, same deal. Okay? All these guys. So, get back to the Elon Musk tweet. So we had this conference in February. Basically, 5 weeks later. February 3rd and 4th, 2021. Okay. Reportedly, over 1,400 firms attended. Or, executives from those firms. So, what's my point? Just a few days after, so reportedly there were executives from Elon Musk's SpaceX that attended that conference. That it was, I guess, I don't know where it was or if it was a remote conference, I don't know, but I thought it was remote. But you can look into it, doesn't really matter. So apparently Elon Musk had some executives. He was probably there too. He just probably didn't want to admit it. He was probably watching it. A few days after this conference, guess what, folks? Tesla invested in Bitcoin. Okay? Remember, this was February 3rd. This conference, February 3rd, 2021. Let's take a look at Bitcoin price. There you have it. So you had, let's move this. You had a big sell-off, beginning of the year, right? Because the market sold off, I believe. The NASDAQ sold off big time in the beginning of the year, did it not? Sold off, and guess what pumped it back up? Look at that. Conference. Oh, yeah. And that was the pump. And all the companies, several companies started buying it, right? Interestingly, what happened recently? The other day, Tesla's earnings, they reported that they sold most of their Bitcoin. You all hear that? In March, just a few months ago, con man, scam artist, Elon Musk, came out in March of 2022 and vowed to not sell his Bitcoin in Tesla. They weren't going to sell it. Guess what? He pulled a Palapatia, right? You know, that Sri Lankan weasel scam artist, SPAC scam artist guy who did the same thing with Tesla. Oh, I'm not going to sell it. And he sells it. Folks, there's a problem when you come out publicly and you're a public figure and you have access to, you have millions of people watching you and you're telling them some things that you're going to do in terms of, it has to do with money or investment or speculation, whatever. You lie to them. This is illegal. Elon Musk sold, I think, 75% of the Bitcoin that Tesla was holding, by the way. These people are all scammers, the people that pumping cryptocurrencies. I don't blame the children. I don't blame the people that bought into it because they've been sold nothing but endless lies and pumps by people that honestly need to have something very bad happen to them. They need to be expunged of all of their money and probably serve time in jail for pumping cryptocurrencies. And I'm talking about people like, think about it. They'll go after, the SEC goes after the Ponzi scheme people in the cryptocurrencies, right? And the feds will go after the people that do the hacking. But who goes after the Cathie Woods who really influenced the bubble, who created the bubble, or certainly pumped it up? Who goes after Elon Musk for the same thing? You know, they have their little webinars, Elon and Cathie Wood and Jack Dorsey. They have a free rein to create these scams and profit off these scams. This is disgusting. And once again, folks, it's just one of many, 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 many examples that I've talked about over the years, confirming that capitalism is in crisis. It's reached a point of diminishing returns because there's so much fraud going on at the expense of the middle and working class. And once again, I'll repeat this. The stock market has destroyed capitalism. The stock market has destroyed capitalism. Everything is out of control. Didn't used to be that way. Stock market was good for capitalism. Capitalism was a great, healthy system in America. But the greed took over. And it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. You know, probably it began, if you look at landmark periods, maybe it was the savings and loan crisis that kind of began a lot of things. And then time went on. And then we had NAFTA, free trade. And that was truly the beginning of the outsourcing of the jobs and the gutting of pensions and all these things. And then more and more executive stock options, right? And it's become a disgusting scam. So that's all I have to say about Michael Saylor and the cryptocurrency, at least for today. You know, I think, you know, if you include him, you got to include Cathie Wood, Elon Musk, Jack Dorsey, this Palapatia guy. This Palapatia guy is this disgusting, sleazy. He's got his filthy hands in every single scam out there. This guy he's a complete disgusting piranha, complete parasite. He's disgusting. I mean, why he's probably the worst of the whole crew. Why? Because he provides absolutely zero value. He's like he's just a marketing guy, right? He does nothing. But remember, the media, folks, the media built all these people up, okay? To a certain degree. Some of them, obviously, even you could say Cathie Wood, well, if she provided value, well, look, she's running some ETFs. She's out there trying to do something, right? It's not like, she's a clown, but I'm saying that she's actually trying to do something. Is she a con? Yeah, she's a con. But this Palapatia guy is a complete hyper parasite. He's a disgusting, slimy, and the thing is that he tries to come off as a populist. Why? A lot of you people probably think, yeah, I was fooled by this guy. He was trying early on to come out and to appeal. I saw this. Oh, Wall Street, they're crooks. Venture capital, they're crooks. Facebook is evil. Okay, so if Facebook is evil, you worked for them for many years. Give back the money that you fucking made from their criminal activity. Stop being a piece of shit. Okay? Actions speak louder than words. Right? He was doing all these things, pretending to, in reality, he was doing this to get the people on his side, to get the little guys on his side. So when he pumped out his S-Packs, yeah, he's on our side. You get it, folks? You see how you were duped? That's why I say this guy is the most disgusting of the whole bunch. And remember, folks, not only did the media create these people, especially this guy. I mean, look, Elon Musk was created because he attached himself to the climate change scam. So, of course, Elon Musk, he jumped aboard that huge scam because he saw all the government money. He knows it's a scam, but he believes it now. I mean, ask yourself the question. If you want to get into a business because you see an opportunity, you can make a lot of money. It's going to be, it's a huge government grift, right? Anything related to green, go into that business. You want to make money. And so he's got a company that's basically sells golf cart technology with nice designs and some software. And he's all of a sudden he's a billionaire. 2020, he's got 26 billion in net worth. Wow, holy shit. Even though he's losing money, probably at that time, I don't know, you could look it up. And then what happens? 2 years later, he's worth almost $200 billion. So what do you think? You think that of course he believes that climate change is legitimate. There's no way he's been fooled. He can't believe otherwise because everything in his life would be a complete scam. Everything would be, you see, he can't. So it's taken over his mind. Now there's no way you can convince him it's not true. But you'll notice he doesn't come out and always preach it. And by the way, let me just mention, I'm critical of Warren Buffett just because it's not a Warren Buffett's fault. The media has overhyped him. Okay? Warren Buffett, of course, and this is why Warren Buffett, look, he's a credible investor. He was a great investor a long time ago. Now, no. But he's not a complete fool. He knows cryptocurrency is a scam. It's obvious. You don't need to, it's obvious. It's backed by nothing. Warren Buffett, as I've mentioned in the past, also was asked about whether Geico was factoring in more liabilities due to the impact of climate change. You know what his answer was? No. What does that tell you? He knows it's a scam. It's bullshit. But you see, that's why they changed it from global warming, which they've been trying to pull since the 80s, by the way. They've been telling us about global warming off and on since the 80s, maybe even earlier. That's fact. Look it up. And in Al Gore, the complete con man, the guy who claims he invented the internet, complete piece of shit, who's got a multi-billion-dollar fund based on climate change. He's making money based on this scam, this lie. And I understand, folks, it's difficult. What everyone is telling you, when all the media, all the establishment, the corporations, everyone that seems credible, legitimate is telling you that climate change is real, and you're doubting it, if you doubt it, you're like, I can't know. I mean, everyone's saying it's real. It must be real. Well, you know what? Everybody was saying weapons of mass destruction was real 20 years ago. Everybody was telling you Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction every time you turned your head. Everybody. And it wasn't real. At some point, if you want to be a responsible, accomplished adult, You don't take anybody's word for anything. You use your mind and you verify it. The problem is that a lot of people are misguided these days because of a lot of gatekeepers out there that post fake information. And so they don't even know how to think critically and logically, and they're going on false premises. It's a big problem these days. The internet has created that problem. Ask most people about the internet, especially the young people, and I'm talking about millennials and younger. Technology is the greatest thing. It's great. The internet's amazing. It democratizes everything. It can give you information. It's not the age of information, folks. It's the age of disinformation. And let me just get back to the whole climate change. Al Gore in his little stupid garbage propaganda movie was calling it global warming. It was called global. They changed it to climate change. I don't know when it was, maybe like 2008 or 10. And you know why? Because not only did none of the predictions come true, the fear-mongering predictions, many of them, it was the opposite happened. Actually, temperatures got colder. So they said, okay, look, we got to do something. What do? Well, we create a name that they can't argue is not occurring. The climate always changes, right? So you can't say it's not changing. It's always changing, right? The question is it due to man-made activities? And then the next question is, if that's true, what's the impact? Is it something that's really detrimental? Okay. Now you could even answer, you could say, yeah, okay, man is impacting the climate. Okay, sure. The question is, are they impacting the climate to the extent that it's causing an imminent problem, an imminent collapse? Does that? No, it's not true. Okay, it's not true for many reasons. So if you don't believe me, and once again, climate science, people say, well, what do you know? You're not even a climate scientist. That's what the fucking kids will tell you. Hey, dildo, climate science didn't exist when I was in school. It's a made-up discipline by the government. UCLA didn't even have a climate science department until a few years ago. Look it up. Climate science is basically meteorology and geology. It's not a real science. There's only two sciences in the world: chemistry and physics. That's a fact. Everything else, to some degree, is basket weaving. Okay? Or applied, it's applied science. Material science, that's applied science. That's applied chemistry and physics. Engineering is very applied chemistry and physics. You could argue material sciences are crossover. Some of the biological sciences, there's somewhat of a crossover. But at the end of the day, what disciplines are deciphering the laws of the universe? There's two: chemistry and physics. Biological sciences relies on the principles of chemistry and physics. Material science, engineering rely on the principles of chemistry and physics. Climate change, in my opinion, is a joke. So you can look up this gentleman here. I think he's from the Nordic country or something. Denmark, Sweden, Norway, I don't know. You can look at this video. You can look at this guy. He's a Nobel Prize winner in physics. Okay, Nobel Prize winner in physics. And he's retired. You understand what that means? He's not worried about losing grants. If you're an academic in some field that deals with anything related potentially to climate change, and you deny it, you're not going to get any grants. That's a fact. If you don't get grants, guess what happens? Well, if you don't have tenure, you lose your job. You all understand how the university system works, by the way? You all know this? University system is based on, well, it's variable. It's variable. But when you're talking about science and applied science, biological sciences, anything like that there's research involved, mainly you're talking about grants. If you can't bring in grants, you're not going to get a job. Usually. I mean, there's exceptions, and it depends upon the school. If it's a small school, it's more focused on teaching, right? In some large schools, they'll, if a guy's a really good teacher. But I'm saying, generally speaking, that's how academia works. You bring in the grants. Okay? And that's tied to the publications. The more publications you get, the more grants you get, generally speaking. If you can't get grants, you don't get tenure. If you don't get tenure, you're in trouble. If you have tenure, then you can't be fired. But if you don't have grants, you can't do research. Okay? You're going to have to teach classes. That's it. And in fact, they may not even let you teach classes because they may deem you to be, oh, he's going to teach that climate change is not true. This guy's retired. He does not have to worry about any of that bullshit. Okay? You can listen to what he has to say. You can listen to what William Happer has to say. Okay? He's I think a physicist. I think he's retired or kind of a maybe part-time Princeton physicist. And you can listen to what he has to say. And ask yourself the question, ask yourself why these guys are not going up on a neutral platform with the climate change people. Why this is not allowed. They don't want you to know. They want you to know their side. You see? They don't want to give you both sides. If there is man-made climate change, who's responsible? Corporations, aren't they? How come you're not hearing that? They're saying it's your fault. It's the people's fault. You have to stop using this stuff. They're not blaming the corporations. Tell me, folks, the corporations are the ones with their buildings, with their lit buildings all night in the skyline, right? The corporations are the ones that are trying to get you to consume more and more often, aren't they? Buy this, buy. They're the ones that have engineered obsolescence. They're designing products to last less time. They want you to buy more and more and more, right? Our economies are based on consumption, right? Think about that. The promotion of consumption causes what? It causes energy expenditure, more rapid energy expenditure. So if there is man-made climate change, it's due to the corporations and their greedy lust for profits. You don't hear that, do you? So let me tell you something, folks. Oil is never going away in its importance. I wrote about that 16 years ago in my book. I'm trained as a chemist. I don't have to think about these things too much. Do you understand what oil is used for? Just about everything, from pharmaceutical drugs to all types of construction materials. It's a basic chemical. It's a chemical. It's used in paint. It's used in everything. Okay? It's very valuable. So think about that for a second when you hear people say, oh, no more oil. We will always need oil. It's a very essential building block. So anyway, that's all I've got for today, folks.